Hi, everybody. My name is Riccardo. I'm a creative producer, photographer, and director. I'm here today having an espresso with Ollie Lewington, who is a storyteller. So, Ollie, how are you today? And tell us a bit more about yourself.
I'm well, thank you, Riccardo. I have had my espresso for the morning. I'm feeling charged up for our conversation. As you said, I'm a storyteller. What I do for a living is tell stories. Right now, that's working for an autism research charity as head of marketing and communications. But my background is in theatre and then film before I moved into the charity sector, working for World Vision UK, setting up their social media as the first full-time social media employee for them. And then I spent 6 years as director of engagement, which covered marketing, communications, digital, all that kind of stuff for the Cystic Fibrosis Trust before I moved to my current role at Autistica.
So let's get into the theme of the day. So today we're gonna talk about storytelling, of course, culture and storytelling. And specifically, we're gonna talk about how to create an internal culture of storytelling. So I wanted to ask you to start off, what do you mean with a culture of storytelling, Ollie?
For me, the point about storytelling is that everyone is a storyteller. Everyone tells stories all day, every day. Just saying to someone that you had a bad night's sleep or that your commute was rubbish this morning or that you're really charged up and excited for a day, that's a story that you're telling someone. And so what I mean when I'm talking about creating a culture of storytelling within organizations is just encouraging people to recognize that they are part of storytelling. It doesn't matter what department you work in, it doesn't matter what your job description is. You are a storyteller, and we need those stories that people tell to deliver whatever it is our organizations deliver, whether that's kind of purpose driven organizations, whether it's large commercial organizations or non-profits and charities.
So why do you think stories are important for charity and purpose-driven organizations?
The point about stories for me is that stories create emotion. Stories provoke emotions in the people that are hearing them. So if you're a purpose driven organization, whether that's a purpose driven commercial organization or a purpose driven non profit, you're always trying to tell stories to the people who you want to connect with. And frequently for charities, that's about telling stories to donors, but it's also about telling stories to supporters, people who support you in other ways and connect you to people. The point of storytelling is to develop relationships, and relationships are developed through the emotion and the connection that stories can bring. But I think there's a really common misconception when you talk about emotion in storytelling. People see it as being something that that makes you cry, particularly in the charity sector. There's this perception that if you're telling a story, it's something that makes someone cry, and it's absolutely not about that. The point of emotional storytelling, and the reason it's so important, is because there are all sorts of emotions you can provoke in people. You can make them angry, you can make them excited, you can make them upset, you can drive all of these different emotions that create the impact that you're trying to create. The emotions that you create are what inspire people to act. And stories are at the heart of all of that.
So we just talked about storytelling and the importance of storytelling inside an organization, a purpose-driven organization. So, but I'm just thinking about if you can give us some examples of how we can translate those stories into a media. I'm just it's social medias, film, photography, or any kind of media, or copywriting, a more ideal media to kind of share those stories, or I don't know what you think of that. So, what media are best really to tell those stories, if any?
I don't think you can specify a particular medium to tell a story, because I think the media has to fit the story that you're trying to tell. And I think when you're talking about creating that internal culture of storytelling, one of the things that's really important is to make it accessible for people. Because if you say, we need you to tell us stories that we can create a video for, then people who are intimidated by the idea of video are going to shy away from it. Similarly, if you say to people, I want you to write down your stories to share with me, if they're nervous about copywriting, or if they, as lots of people do, if they sit there and think, well, I'm not a writer, I can't write a compelling story, I don't know how to do it, then you don't capture those stories in the right way. As a storyteller, for me, my objective is to get people within the organization sharing stories that they come across with me. So if they have an interesting conversation with someone, I want them to tell me that story. If it's easiest for them to tell me in an email, great. If it's easiest for them to tell me on a quick phone call, great. I just want to find a way of capturing the story. It's then my job as the storyteller within the organization to find the best medium to tell that story and to translate it into something that I know our supporters and our audiences will connect with.
I agree with you. It's very important to get the stories first, and then how to translate those stories into a media is a good idea to work with professionals. So, and that's actually leading to my last question before we wrap up this very exciting espresso only, which is any if any purpose-driven organizations or charitable organization are listening to these. So we've been talking about how to create this storytelling culture. So what kind of tips you can give them to create that culture? Any kind of practical tips?
For me, a lot of the culture creation aspect of storytelling is about just reinforcing it and supporting people. So it's about helping people recognize that they tell stories every day, but also they come across stories every day. And it's just constantly reminding people that I'm interested in their stories, that I want to hear the things that they're coming across. I want to hear about the people that they're talking to. So the best tip I can give people within an organization is just keep emphasizing the fact that you are interested in them. You are interested in the stories that they have to tell. And then there's also the feedback element. So when you get a really compelling story from someone that you can turn into really compelling content to share in the right way for the right audiences, it's about going back to the organization and saying, look how well this thing performed. And we've just done exactly that at Autistica. We've just done a little campaign that included one particular video of someone telling their story that performed way better than anything we've seen on our Facebook channel for a long time. And so it's really important then for me to go back to the organization and say, this is how well this worked. Look at how great this is. And I wouldn't have come across it if it weren't for you, because you brought the story to me. And so there's that constant reinforcement of the value of storytelling and the impact that it has. So the biggest tip I can give people is just keep driving home how important stories are.
So, Ollie, thank you so much. There's a lot of takeaways in this espresso. So, thank you for your time. And how do people can find out more about you, or if they want to connect with you, how do they do that?
The simplest way is to find me on social media. I'm just Ollie Lewington. Ollie is OLI. And I am the same name everywhere you can think of to find me.
Fantastic. Thank you for your time and see you for the next espresso. Bye bye.